I grew up in the East Texas woods. East Texas is very much what I would call the western edge of the Old South. I grew up with a southern sensibility. I grew up in the piney woods. There's oaks and magnolias and gum trees and pine trees and sandy soil and gently rolling and all of that kind of stuff that collectively in the terrain sense makes up that southern rim, if you will. I played in creek beds. I played in fields. I ran with the hounds, so to speak. My dad was a hunter. And I had a very freewheeling life. I got to be in control of my destiny in a sense. My parents let me go. It was an era in the mid and late 40s where if you lived in the country, you could do that. You could just go play for hours and hours and hours out in the woods. And I made friends with the trees and the limbs and the sunlight coming through the limbs. And I conjured from it. I made up things from it. I didn't know that was art, and I didn't know it was poetic, but it is the history of my personal life came through that space. By the time I got to be an artist, I decided after graduate school and what Jim was talking about, I didn't watch television quite 2 years, but it was long enough. And basically what I did is I just kind of shut down. I didn't know who I was. I made good-looking objects, but they had no meaning. They didn't mean anything. I would call them untitled, and people would go, "Oh, that's interesting," which means they have no clue what it is. I wanted to give it life. I wanted to imbue it like what I felt like art historically was, an imbued object, an object with meaning and symbolism. And if you ask it, what is it? What does it do? What's it for? What does it say? What does it represent? What is it telling me? And why am I expected to look at it? And what will I get from it? Those are valid questions and questions that should be asked. I think that if you have arrived at this spot, in this place, in this room, on this day, you've already made a commitment. You know, you've already decided to join the hunt, so to speak. You are in the race. You know, you're there. Once you, or flip a switch, honey. Once you have a degree, assuming it can happen, of personal fulfillment, inevitably you will turn and look around at the community. You want community, a collective, to have that as well. We really are a community-oriented species. It's a very positive thing. I conjure from the sublime when people ask, what inspires you? I say green grass, trees, sticks, rivers, rocks, blue sky, dewdrops on the roses. You know, I mean, those things are all very poetic in the sense, and you can conjure from those things. You can conjure from very negative things, and we live in an era where a lot of artists do. They boy. I mean, when we go in our travels and we go to galleries and museums, and you can see some pretty dark stuff and I don't want to go there, but I dare say you know what I'm talking about. I don't think that I'll say I don't think I make art only about the nice stuff. There's plenty of stuff around that's tough and hard and really hard to deal with. And all of those things count, just like the easy stuff. But I think that if you keep them in perspective, I just think it makes you stronger to do, if you can do that. This piece is called Gone Forever. It's about traveling through East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and into the Carolinas, and looking at a small farmhouse. And I can say, oh man, I grew up in a house like that. I grew up in a place like that. Inevitably, there will be a clothesline, an outhouse, a smokehouse, an old barn, something, and you can tell at one time it functioned in a very powerful way. I mean, you can tell that there were people and there were activity and there was life and there was growth, and now it's gone. It's derelict. Not that it has never been replaced. It has been replaced. Now there's a different kind of house, a different kind of road, a different kind of feel, a different kind of situation. But at the core, it's still that human growth pattern. It's still there. We're still trying. We're still trying to do better. I like the idea of the top out of a southern pine growing out of a house and blowing in the wind. And the idea of it being gone forever, that's just a commentary, that particular spot, that particular situation may very well be gone, but it just simply has been replaced by a new generation or another generation or a third or a fourth generation. Go ahead. This is a table. It has a cream pitcher sitting on the table. It's the suggestion of a cream pitcher. There's no cream in it. It just psychologically tells you that there could be. If you did a survey on thesis papers, PhD thesis papers in art history, I bet you that, and I'm making this up too, but I bet you there are more thesis papers written on the vessel than virtually any other single subject. Why? Why would that be? Because it's such a powerful, powerful image. It's it represents so much in our history. The bowl, the platter, the cup, the plate, the pitcher, the vessel, and what goes in it and what it brings. It brings life. So in this case, the pitcher with the explosion, if you will, of the flowers coming out of it, it means something. It's symbolic of something. There's a reason for it to be there. The table, tables, windows, doors, all of those kinds of things have deep symbolic meaning in human history. I like the idea of the table and what's on the table. In this case, what is on the table are little houses and knives, even mail images, needles, sewing needles. It's filled with forms, all symbolic of what we are about. It's big. I mean, good God, what do you do? I still own it. What do you do with a 20-foot sculpture that's 18 feet high that goes in someone's house? Not around someone's house, but in the front door. They could look at it and say, oh my God, James, I love that. I just don't have any place to put it. Yeah, I bet you don't. In my case, I'm looking for one person on the planet that can house it and's got the money to pay for it. You know, we're not selling toothpaste. It's a unique object. This is called skin casting. All of my drawings have titles that are meant to be representative of something. They mean something. Skin casting is about casting your skin. It's about shedding your past. It's about moving on and kind of bringing in a new paradigm for your existence. I think maybe the worst thing you can do is to plagiarize your own work. It's like doing a piece that was a piece that was a piece when someone liked it back there somewhere. So, oh my God, if I do another one, someone else will buy it, you know. That's almost like a psychological jaw that can really crush you. And I think it ends a lot of careers. It stalls them. They go, they just never get past that. I want to continue to grow. That's a big deal. Continue to grow. Skin casting is about that. Go ahead. This is a she. I make a lot of art about she. She in my personal life is a specific person. It's my wife, Charmaine. She in my thought life is daughters, 7 daughters. Then it goes out to the world. You know, if it's applicable, it's applicable. Thank you. She's holding birds. Birds are symbolic. Birds mean something. Birds have historically meant something. A bird at your window was not just a bird trying to get in your house, it was a spirit. And poetically and in literature, it had that kind of significance. Prisms, she's holding birds and prisms. And she sees worlds. She's seeing worlds. She's wearing worlds around her neck. I give a lot of reverence to this. I take this stuff very, very serious. I swear, I've had shows in New York where some critic would say something like, they were beautifully horrific. What? That's 2 words you don't necessarily really want to use in the same sentence, but as though from a drug-induced nightmare. Oh, really? I guess if I lived in Soho, I probably would be having drug-induced nightmares too. I wasn't having drug-induced nightmares, but they may well have been, and they may have been writing about themselves as they saw something. This is called All Diamonds. This is an outdoor piece within the same kind of genre as the standing vase and 5 flowers, which is here, now in Greensboro. Diamonds are intellect. They're cool, they're calculated, they're rational, they're systematic, they're mathematical. They're very much of science and reason and thought. The core of this piece is very much biological. It's almost like life holding these appendages, which are science. So I look at it as kind of a marriage, a meld between life, spirit, and philosophy or science. It's called All Diamonds. This, by the way, is our patio looking out of our kitchen window. This is the piece that's here. In this case, this is at Rice University, on the campus of Rice. Great story. The new president of Rice University, a very prestigious school, by the way, was a lawyer from Columbia. He was at Columbia University, and he was hired by Rice to be their president. And when he got there, one of the things he did is he walked around this extremely prestigious school that had a very low student body as a ratio to grounds and facility. And he said, "Where's the sculpture?" And I was the first one that he actually brought in 7 pieces to go on the campus for a year-long exhibition. And ultimately, he bought 2 of the pieces for the campus. And you know, that kind of thing really, really makes you feel good, because this is not some Dumbo, you know, this is some guy who has been around the block, so to speak, and knows his way through the world, through the conscious world, the business world, as well as a kind of a high-ranking university world. Go ahead. This is a detail of the piece. Standing vase and 5 flowers. Boy, that's as basic as you can get. That is as bare bones as you can get in this process of making things, of making a presentation out there. So it's pretty universal. It's a very universal form and shape, and this piece is very voluptuous, it's very soft, it's very organic, you know, it's very much of nature. At least it's very much of a particular part of nature. It's not the harsh part. It's perfect for the site, to tell you the truth, because it goes in this boulevard. Sets in green. It looks as though if the wind blew it, it'd topple over, because it's very delicate. Very delicately balanced there, but nature's very delicately balanced anyway.